Record on here. Okay, so today we are going to get started in basic mechanisms. So this is our first day. So this is the fun day. This is where we get to go over the syllabus and the course overview and kind of get an idea of what we're going to be doing. And then we'll also be starting our first module as well. So we'll kind of navigate through Canvas and kind of get to know, how this is all going to go, but it's kind of like first day typical stuff, at least at the beginning here. So where I'm going to start is just kind of getting into Canvas. And when you're at the welcome menu here, it just kind of gives you, an overview. So you probably saw this early last week, I think is when I published and released it. So hopefully you got a chance to look at it. If you didn't, that's okay. We're going to be going over everything today. And so as you can see here, there's a syllabus, there's a meet your instructor, who is me, Kelly Riba, about purchasing your book and such. So what we're going to do is we're going to start over on our syllabus. So I'm going to click the link over on the left-hand side. I try to set things up so that they're easy to navigate and get used to, but I realize that a lot of different classes, they do it just their own different way. Hi, come in and sit down. Welcome. We're just getting started. So we're going into Canvas and we're going to start looking at the syllabus. Okay. All right. So I'm going to click on the PDF here at the top for our syllabus. And it should look familiar to you in terms of format. It should be the same as most everybody. If you've had classes here before. Hello, welcome. Have a seat, log on. We're going to be looking at Canvas, looking at our syllabus. So this course is going to be running on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We start at noon on each one of the days, but today we go until 3:50, almost 4 o'clock. And then on Wednesdays and Fridays, we go till 2:50, so just before 3 o'clock. It is an 80-hour class, so we meet for 10 hours a week for the 8 weeks. And it's considered a face-to-face / hybrid. And I'll talk about that and how we can build a little bit of flexibility in, depending if you're interested in exercising that. So we're always going to be meeting here in I-210. And like I just told you, we're going to be meeting on the dates and times that we just discussed from today until December 15th. So really till the end of the semester, right before Christmas. So here in our basic mechanisms class, I'm not going to read this to you, but we're going to be looking at kind of the basic 4-bar mechanisms. We're going to be exploring gears and V-belt drives, looking at velocities, and then doing this in a graphical method. We'll do a little bit of math along the way, but primarily we're going to be focusing on drawing it out, and we're going to use AutoCAD as our tool to do that. Prerequisites for this are going to be college physics, calculus. Oh, I think I put the or the calculates. Yeah, that's right. For you guys, for basic mechanisms, it's an or. So whether you had the college physics 1 or the calculus based, either one of those will be good. Also the tech drafting class. So having that AutoCAD behind you, because we are going to be using AutoCAD as a tool to, do some of our problems. And then also computer programming for engineers. We're going to have some opportunities to do a little bit of Excel in here. So that's kind of exciting. The textbook that we're using, I'm gonna hold this one up. So it's this textbook. It's the Machine and Mechanisms by Mishka. If you haven't gotten this yet, make sure that you do so ASAP, because we will be working out of the book and all the assignments are out of the book and like end of the chapter types of things, and we'll be referencing as throughout. We are working out of the 4th edition, which has been around for a while. So since 2012. So you shouldn't have any problem getting in that. As far as other course materials, flash drive, scientific calculator, no specific scientific calculator, whichever one you're just most familiar and comfortable with, pencil, computer. Now, if you plan on joining virtually, I am requiring that you have a webcam and show yourself, because in the past we've had, last semester I had it and everybody had it off, and for more than one reason. Number one, I'm not telling you that, I think you're goofing around if you don't have it on or you're not paying attention, but I do like to be able to just kind of see and get your attention too. I think you feel more like you're part of the group when we see people. So if you do want to take advantage of some of the virtual things we'll be talking about, then just make sure that you set yourself up with a webcam. Most laptops and such have them built in, so hopefully that's not really an issue. and then you need internet access as well. Now, information. My name is Kelly Riva. I'm going to be your instructor for this 8-week course. You'll notice that I have my email here, my WCTC email, as well as this is my mobile phone. And I give you my mobile phone because the email doesn't always like push the notifications very often on my phone. So I literally have to go into the email to actually see if there's something new. And if there is something you're working on and you need some attention sooner than later, you can always text me and I'll get that, and I'll respond to you probably a little bit quicker than just by email. So those two are my preferred, and the fastest would be the text messaging. I will do my best to respond to you within 24 hours. Usually it's a little bit better than that, but in case it gets down, you know how it is. It kind of gets down on your text messages and all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, I kind of got by on me. Don't be afraid to remind me, and just gently remind me. Say, hey, did you get a chance to look at this, that, or the other? And I'll make sure that I get to it ASAP. You can contact me, in the evening and on weekends as well. I try to say, I don't guarantee a response like after 9 o'clock at night, because just depending, I go to bed, sometimes a little bit earlier. And then also on the weekends, it would just depend on where I'm at, if I can, respond to you immediately. But don't be afraid to send an email or a text message whenever you're working. Okay. I do have the Zoom link here, but I actually also have it in Canvas. Is probably the more convenient place to look if you decide to use the virtual option when we're meeting. And then my office is located right across the hallway over here in the administrative offices. And then my office hours, I kind of have them as Wednesdays and Fridays from 3 to 4. Or by appointment. So really we can probably figure something out if needed. So that's not a problem at all. So what are we going to learn in this course? So once you complete this course, you'll be able to, and again, I'm not going to read these things to you, but we're going to be looking at basic mechanisms, and really it's the core of a standard kinematics class. So looking at mechanisms, creating the diagrams, using vectors to solve problems, looking at displacements, designing mechanisms as well. Like, where do I start with? It's one thing to go from one that's already existing, but how do I get started, and how would I approach that? We're going to be looking at cams, at gears, and then also at belt and chain drives as well in here. Okay. At WCTC, we have 4 critical life skills that we want to make sure that we address, and you get practice at this in each one of your courses as you move through the program. So communication, critical thinking and problem solving, relationship building, interpersonal skills that you have with your classmates and myself, and then also self-management, being able to make sure that you're finishing things on time. So we kind of hit all 4 of them in most all of our classes in mechanical design. Okay. Now, as far as overall program outcomes, so our mechanical design program has outcomes for everybody, and I'm going to say at the state level. So this program is taught at 15 out of the 16 technical colleges in the state of Wisconsin. So we all have to abide by the time somebody has gone through the whole program, they have done a list of things to say that you are a mechanical design technologist. Okay. And how each college approaches it may be different and can be different. And it also is going to have the flavor, if you would, of the industry that is surrounding that particular technical college. So the choice of different types of CAD softwares are going to be dictated by what the advisory committee and what's popular in the area that they live in or they serve. So like I said, many of the classes, the core classes, especially like basic mechanisms or kinematics, statics, those types of classes are going to be common throughout the whole thing. So the things that we're going to be focusing on in this class that are going to be considered program outcomes are design mechanical components and products, analyze mechanical engineering problems, select purchase parts, and then also perform in a professional and ethical manner. Okay. Throughout the program, you're going to be taught, you're going to be handing things in with an expectation of kind of neatness and orderliness, and then also being able to follow along. Those are things that are expectations of you when you get out in industry as well, and you have to share your work or show your thought process. So we practice those things here. What external standards will be addressed in this class? None particular. You probably have encountered for instance, the dimensioning standard. But since even though we're using CAD or AutoCAD in this particular class, we aren't going to be generating documentation for something to be created. We're actually, if you would, and we'll find this out in these first and initial chapters that we look at, we're like at the beginning of the design process with basic mechanisms. So it's kind of like the layout mode, if you would. So we won't be really, exercising, the standard dimensioning and all that kind of stuff and the views that we had in the technical drafting class, but we will be using AutoCAD as the tool to solve some of our problems. Okay. Now, what technology or technology skills will you need? So none, as far as technology itself, none are required, meaning you don't have to have a laptop with the software loaded so that you can work off campus, because our lab here is dedicated to that. So the hours that we meet, this lab is open for you to use. So if you didn't have a computer or internet access outside of WCTC, here's your home base. Okay. So so in terms of technology, you don't need any. I guess maybe, I don't know if a calculator is considered technology anymore, but that would probably be the only thing that you would need, outside of the stuff. But if you wish to have access to this course, I'm going to kind of go down here, and the materials, including AutoCAD, off campus, to have that ability to work when you want to between our sessions, then you will need a computer or a laptop that will run the software. AutoCAD isn't terrible, but you do need a decent graphics card, and you do need some, RAM to actually run. I do have a link in Canvas for you to go to their site if you don't have it downloaded already, but if you do have a previous version, the AutoCAD will be active for 1 year. So if you are kind of beyond that year at the tail end of it, you may need to re-up, and that's totally fine. You just kind of go through that same process, but we'll talk about that later. Also, you need a high-speed internet connection, and that's really just for if streaming or things like that. It's gonna help you out. And then please refer to the Canvas for the AutoCAD. All right. Technology related skills, a solid understanding of navigating a computer with Microsoft Windows, and then also using AutoCAD, because it's a prerequisite for this course. I'm expecting you, we don't have to know like crazy AutoCAD, but laying down lines, angles, all that kind of stuff, the basics is what we need, okay? Which you should be pretty darn good at this point. How can I get help with technology? So we do have a support, like a service desk here at WCTC. It's right in front of the bookstore if you haven't done that before. So so they are very, very helpful. So if you do have any questions, you can contact them at the number that's there. And then I also have their email address, as well as a link to their technical resources page. There are some things that you can troubleshoot beforehand, but they are here to help you as well with any problems or things that you run in off campus. How will I get graded in this class? So basically there's going to be 2 elements to your grade. We're going to have like module homework assignments, and that's going to be 70% of your grade. I consider the homework essential practice. Okay. And I weigh it heavier than the assessments, only because I want you to do the homework. Okay. That's where you're going to get good at this stuff. That's where you're going to, kind of master the concepts and how to do things. And then the unit assessments, and maybe you want to say, well, are those the tests? Yeah, I guess they are, because what they're going to cover is, I think I have it set up as three or 4 units, and there's going to be 1 or 2 modules for each one of those units. And that assessment then, open book, open note, it's like kind of like extra homework assignments to just be like, okay, before we move on, we got all this under our belts. Okay. And that's worth 30% of your grades. So you do need to do them in order to pass the class. Okay. But again, they're really just kind of extra problems. I really want to make sure that you get good practice during kind of that homework assignment phase, so that you get, you get good at it. And then I also, you'll also notice unlimited attempts for the homework assignments. So you can continue to make corrections to those, as you see fit to get the maximum amount of points. And then just 2 attempts though on the unit assessments. Okay. Because by that time you should have pretty good practice, and that should be plenty. As far as your grade, this is the standard WCTC grade scale. So this probably looks pretty familiar to you. And when can I expect feedback on my assignments, or when do I grade them? I try to look practically every day. Within a day or two, I usually have things graded. If you notice something's hanging out there and it hasn't been graded, let me know, because I don't want that for you, because usually you want to know like how I'm doing, and you know, you can kind of keep going and gain that confidence or make adjustments as needed. So I try to say within 3 school days is when I have things graded, but normally a little bit sooner. What course policies are there? So how often do I need to come to class? Attendance is required for each class. Now, this can either be done in person in our lab here, and that's where I'm going to be most every day. Okay. Or you can do it virtual via Zoom. So as you can kind of see, I opened up the Zoom link here, and I also am recording through that link. So you can attend via Zoom if that's more convenient for you. Okay. But you will need a working webcam in order to be virtual. Okay. So all that means is I want to see you. And again, it's not to like keep track of you and make sure that you're listening to me. It's more, I just want it to be an environment where it's more like the classroom. Okay. I don't want, just because you're virtual doesn't mean you're not part of the group. Okay. So I want you to feel part of the group. And by having the camera on, I really feel that helps a lot. Okay. So, so please do that. All right. So I don't want to limit anybody from being virtual, but I do want to have your webcam on. Our lecture time is a time for you to gain an understanding of the concepts during my lecture pertaining to the assigned chapters, you know, from the textbook. Additionally, I'll perform demonstrations and give you kind of the insights on what I'm looking for the homework. Okay. So by attending the lecture and then reviewing it on the replay, if you need to, you'll get all the information that you need and really have a good understanding of, you know, what is expected when you hand things in. If you're unable to attend a class, please notify me via email of your absence before class starts that day. So if we start at noon, like we do for each one of our classes, just make sure that you get me an email beforehand. You can send me a text, but I do like an email for this purpose, just because then it's documented like in my email. So so it's better to email if you're unable to make it. But also know that if you are unable to make it, my expectation of you is that you will be watching the recording of the lecture to catch yourself up. So if you come to class the next time and say, oh, what did I miss? No, you got to watch the video, because that's the reason I'm actually recording the videos, is so that you get everything that you need. Okay. I also realize, you know, in a recording, especially when we're meeting for 3-4 hours, I won't talk that long. I promise. Our classes are normally going to be structured where I'll lecture for a little while and then kind of give you what you need and then let you work on it. And I'm here and available to answer questions for you. But if you come and you say, what did I miss? And I mean, and without, you know, having a recording, then I'd have to kind of like summarize, you know, what we went over, and you don't get, you know, the full, you know, effect of what we went over. So that's why the recording is really nice, especially if you have to miss, because things come up. I understand that. So if you're unable to attend, and do not notify me. Oh, I'm sorry. There's more here. So if you attend, you got to contact me via email. This is considered an excused absence. Now, you're allowed 1 excused absence. We only have 8 weeks. Okay. So we're kind of moving through material. Each additional excused absence will result in a 2% reduction of your overall grade. I don't know if that sounds like a lot or not. I've had a pretty good experience with students kind of like being, you know, attending regularly. So I hope that you do that. And even with the recording out there, if you say to me, oh, I'll just, you know, watch the recording, I still want you to make that effort, you know, to be here in class. But again, it can be virtual or it can be live, totally up to you. All right. If you're unable to attend the class and do not notify me, that's an unexcused absence. And that's going to result in 5% off of your overall grade. That's kind of a big ding. Okay. So make sure you do the follow-up. And it's really an expectation and getting used to what you would have to do when you're out in the workplace. Okay. That's what we're preparing you for. Any questions about that? All right. Okay. Now, late work, can you submit late work after the due date? So for each one of our modules, we're going to have assignments, and I have what I call target due dates. If you've had me before, you're used to this, but if you haven't had me before, this may be something new. So a target due date is set to help you pace through the class to be sure that you're on task with finishing it up by the end date, okay? If you need extra time on a module homework assignment, you can take that extra time without penalty. Meaning, if you need an extra day or two, you don't have to ask me. Just go ahead and take the extra day or two. And when you hand it in, there won't be any lost points. Okay. Now be careful with that, because the one day that there is no more accepting of homework assignments or corrections is the last day of class. Okay. And the last day of class is December 15th, and we're done. Okay. So at the end of the day on the 15th, then any grades that weren't submitted are going to go to zeros. Okay. And those will be included in your final grades. So just be aware of that. Also, depending on the timing in the course, sometimes I add zeros if I notice somebody's falling behind, because if you don't hand your first assignment in, for instance, for 3 weeks, it's going to look like you have an A in the class. All right. But really you're 2 or 3 assignments behind. So I might put zeros in as we go, but you can always submit over the top of that 0. Okay. So don't think that you can't, but I also want you to have a more clear picture of what your grade actually is. Okay. Because I don't want to get to the end and you be like, well, I had an A going the entire time, but you only handed in half of the assignments. Okay. So, so that way we're all on the same page, but it's not a penalty, and it doesn't mean that you can't hand in. It just means that it's just a better picture of how you're doing at the moment. Okay. Please note, with kind of all of this said, students who attend class on a regular basis and they hand their homework in right by that due date. I'm not saying it has to be on or before that target due date, but within a couple of days of that target due date, they get the high scores in the courses. Okay. This is my unscientific observation, and I've been teaching for a long time. Okay. So I like to treat you as adults, and that's why I have it set up the way that I do. I want to build in the flexibility because we all have different things outside of class. You're going to notice that all of my due dates are on Fridays at 11:59, and that might not be a good day for you. Okay. So then take the couple extra days. If you feel like Saturday's a better day, or Sunday, I can catch up on my homework and I can get it in, totally fine. No penalty whatsoever. Okay. But don't let it get behind. Don't start being, 3 weeks behind. I got to catch up on my homework and think you're going to. We cover a lot of ground. This is a 3-credit class in 8 weeks. Okay. So the pacing that's there is, by design, so that you can get everything in. So, so that's all that I'll say about that. Any questions? Okay. Learning environment and etiquette. So, so really a positive and welcoming learning environment is very important to me, and also to WCTC in general. So there is a student conduct code that you are expected as a student to abide by. Okay. So make sure that you know and understand that there's a link to that here as well. But some of the things, policies that I like to, kind of have in my course and just make sure that we're all on the same page. First of all, always come and be ready to work when class starts. Okay. Come to class with any pre-work or, homework done as directed by me. I can't think of anything. Sometimes I might say, read the next section or something like that. I loosely say read. I will say that. And I say it loosely because our textbooks are written by engineers. All right. They're not so great at writing and making it, super compelling. So sometimes they're a bit boring, and sometimes they're kind of hard to follow, but you have purchased this book. We will be using this book. I will be referencing it on a regular basis. You spent money on it. So we'll make sense of it when it doesn't make sense. Okay. And this one's actually pretty good. This is pretty good, but make sure that you're ready and you always have all the materials with you. Be respectful to others by refraining from any chatting with other students while others might be asking questions or getting answers to their questions, or when I'm actively lecturing. Okay, please don't be having side conversations. During open work time, and we always will have open work time, I don't mind if you guys talk to each other or work together or bounce ideas off of each other. I'm here to help, obviously, and I'm happy to come around and get you going. But if there's somebody next to you and you're like, hey, how did you do that? Feel free. Okay. We're all here to learn from one another. As you guys sit in the audience, if you would, you're, following along with me. But I don't know, when I'm in a lecture, my mind wanders a little bit and I might miss something, or I didn't see it the same way, or I didn't really get what she said. Maybe you can ask your neighbor and you're welcome to do that. Okay. That's not cheating, but it's also, you have to also make sure that you understand the material individually. Keep the conversations to a low level and on task with the topic. And then, and please take personal conversations outside. Topics of conversation that are off limits are kind of the ones that we all know: religion, politics, sex, race, anything that is going to cause angst, you know. So please, let's just kind of keep it pretty mellow while we're in class. And if I need to, I'll kind of remind you, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. Feel free to ask any questions as they come up during my demonstrations, lectures, and open work times. Okay. Because even when I'm recording a lecture, I want your questions, because questions that you have might be questions that somebody who is either virtual or watches the recording may also have. Okay. So that's valuable. Okay. The only thing that I don't do is, for instance, if I'm doing a demonstration on AutoCAD, I'm not necessarily demonstrating for you to follow along click by click by click. So I'm not going to be, if somebody says, how did you do that? That I won't do. We have plenty of work time to figure out the AutoCAD, but concept wise, if there's any questions as we move along, and you'll kind of know the difference when we do it. It's just that when we have, you know, a number of people in class, everybody could be, you know, stuck at a different point, and then we never get through the lecture. Okay. But other than that, ask any questions at all. And then a couple other ones: no swearing in my class. I really appreciate if we keep our language to a positive tone, and swearing just isn't you know, very, very conducive to that. If they slip or whatever, I'm not gonna like boot you out of here. Okay. But I might be like, whoa, language, just what's a reminder. But that's also an expectation of being a professional when you go out and you work in industry. Okay. And then always apply the golden rule: do unto others as you would have done unto you. So, you know, when we have conversations and we're speaking with one another, just kind of think, you know, tone, all that kind of stuff. And let's just be pleasant and helpful with everybody in class. So any questions about those items? Yeah, I don't think so. Electronic devices. Can you have your phone in class? All right. So I don't mind if you have your electronic devices on you, because I realize we have responsibilities outside of class that, you know, you may need to tend to, but please refrain from using those devices during class. So my expectation is, if you're bringing your own laptop, I don't mind at all, but my expectation is we're on Canvas and we're on AutoCAD and we're doing the stuff that we're here to do. Okay. I can't see your screens when I'm here, but believe it or not, if you have something up on your screen that is not you know, what we're looking at, it's distracting to other people in back of you, believe it or not. I've had that happen to me. Like, I'm like, I wonder what's on Facebook, what they're looking at, or what's the YouTube, you know, video or whatever. It is distracting to other people. So please don't do that. Okay. And then I would appreciate you putting your phone away and putting it on vibrate. If you do need to take a phone call, it's totally understandable. Just take it outside. Even if you have to get up while I'm talking, it's totally fine. Okay. Not a big deal, because I realize, again, things might, you know, you might have to be attending to different things. So it's okay. It's okay. As long as it's not disruptive, that's totally fine. Other policies: correcting module homework assignments. I encourage you to make the corrections to the graded assignments. And the reason for that is I believe that by making those corrections, those things are going to stick in your mind longer. Okay. Kind of like, you know, mistakes, you kind of stick with you, right? You just want to learn from those mistakes, and that's part of the learning process. So you can submit to earn points back as many times as needed to achieve the grade that you want. So if you get, you know, 2 points off on an assignment, you can make those corrections to earn those 2 points back. Okay. There's no time limit except the last day of the class. Then after that 11:59 on the last day, there's no more accepting of any corrections either. Okay. So any assignments or corrections. Correcting unit assessments. I encourage you to make corrections to these as well. You can submit to earn points back one time. So meaning, you'll do your initial submission, you'll get it corrected. If there's any points that were reduced, you have one attempt then to make those corrections and hand back in, if you so choose. Okay. So like 2 attempts, I guess I call, on that unit assessment. Okay. So not 2 times to correct, 1 time to correct, 1 time to submit. Right. Extensions, there are no extensions after the end date in this course to finish any work or to improve your grade. Communication outside of class, I have that there. Cheating, if you're caught cheating in my class using someone else's work, you will be withdrawn immediately and you get an F and you get to take it over. That's not something you want to get to do. All right. But in order to finish up this course, this is a required, or finish up the program, this is a required course. So you would have to retake it, and that's no fun. Outside of class work, this course requires students to work in addition to the weekly scheduled hours. Okay. Don't think that just because you're here and you're working, that guarantees that you will be done with your work. Okay. It may take you longer to get done with some assignments. Okay. I can't predict that for each individual person. Okay. I try to give you a rigor that is, you know, doable within the hours that we have here, but the expectation is maybe you're reading some things outside of class. Maybe you're working a little bit more. Maybe you have to come a little bit early or stay a little bit late to finish things up. Don't think that that's not out of the realm. Some weeks you might be like, boom, I'm done, right? And you get it done early. Other weeks, it might take you a little bit longer. So on average, you can expect anywhere from 1 to 2 hours in addition to each hour outside of work. So, or outside of class. So today we're meeting for 4 hours, right? It wouldn't be unreasonable for me to be like, you can expect 4 more hours outside of this class time. Okay. So, so just be aware of that. All right. It's not just what it, you know, you just have to be here and you'll get it all done. I can't guarantee that. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Might have to do a little bit more outside of. And that's why a lot of students like to elect, and it's just a total preference on your part, to have that flexibility to be able to work outside of class off campus. So having a laptop or a computer loaded with the software and the ability to get to Canvas and such, you know, works out really nice to get those extra hours in if needed. And then our virtual live Zoom sessions. So please see the calendar for any of the on-campus or virtual lecture days. Right now I have everything on campus, but there might be a time where, I mean, even out of my control, sometimes I'm like, oh crap, I'm going to have to hold lecture here at home. I think it happened once last semester. Okay. Maybe twice, I forget, but watch your email. Okay. I always tell my students, it's a good practice before you come to campus, check your email. Okay. Check your WCTC email, because that's where any announcements are going to go if I do need to adjust anything. Okay. Also know though, if I end up being virtual, for instance, you can still come into this classroom and work. So even if you happen to be on campus for another class and you're like, oh, I'd just rather work here at WCTC, the administrative office is right across the way. You can just say, hey, could you open the room for me? Kelly's going to be virtual today, but I want to use the lab. This is open to you. Okay. That's totally fine. So, so with that, is there anybody in the room right now that thinks that they will be exercising the virtual option via Zoom? Is there anybody, or you plan on being here? Okay. Yeah. On a regular basis, probably Zoom?
Probably more often than not.
That's okay. That's okay. And hopefully you find it to be, and really how I run it, just so that you know, anything that's on my screen, and that's why I kind of sit here during lecture, anything on my screen is what you're going to see on the screen as well. And you'll hear my voice in the background. And then you have the opportunity to, you know, verbalize any questions that you have or put them in the chat. If they're in the chat, sometimes I miss them a little bit. They might get, you know, and don't be afraid to like, hey, Kelly, stop. But you can do that. Okay. I've had students that they live 40, 50 minutes away, and it's kind of a trek to come. And if this helps you out, and you have the ability with a high-speed internet and, you know, the ability to run the AutoCAD off campus, that's totally fine. I think it works. I think it works okay. Anybody else think that they're going to be virtual at times? Maybe. Yep. Good, good. And it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to just test it out. You know, even if you're like probably going to be there most often, just know how to kind of, you know, when you're off campus, it doesn't hurt to try out the Zoom link and make sure that it's working for you at home. How many have done Zoom even in other classes through Canvas? Some of you. Okay. All right. It's a nice second best way of attending class. Okay. And again, I'm not trying to be a stickler about the webcam, but I think it does. It includes you more. You know what I mean? Again, not to be like, I want to have my eyes on you, but it's more just to feel part of the group. I think that's important. Okay. All right, cool. Cool. Where can you get help? There's a number of places at WCTC that if you need any additional assistance, that you have it. Now, in this class in particular, I'm not going to say you can't get any help outside of class, but it's one of those things where it's hard to find tutors for a program class. So I'm here. Okay. So when we do our class sessions, most often I'll be lecturing for it. This is going to be out of the ordinary. Today's going to be a little bit longer than normal, but I'm going to probably be lecturing for an hour, hour and a half, maybe touch two once in a while, but then the rest of the time is going to be for you to work on the assignments. Okay. So any difficulties that you have, I'm here. Okay. That's my job. Don't feel like you're bothering me or anything like that. I'm always going to be willing to help, but then you can see that the other options out here as well, including career connections. If you're looking for a job or an internship, they can help you with that as well. All right. And then really the rest of the syllabus, as far as like this section, they're kind of the boilerplates, being a student here at WCTC. I think as a kinematics class where you guys are at in the program, you're considered second year students. Is that right? Kind of like starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel ish. Okay. So you've been here for a little while. So this probably isn't too new to you. So I don't want to bore you with going over all that stuff. Okay. All right. And then as we go a little bit further down, this is a very generic schedule. Okay. Very generic schedule, meaning this is really just kind of laid out the days of the week that we're here on a regular basis for the 8 weeks. There is no class on December 8th. So just know that. And there's no class on November 10th. There are 2 meetings. Those are 2 Fridays that you don't have to be here. I know, very disappointed at this point, right? But just be aware of those, and I'll let you know as they get a little bit closer. I guess November 10th isn't that far away. Gosh, time flies. No, they are not. They are meetings that I'm required to be at. That's all it is. Yeah. Yeah, November 10th and December 8th. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So just kind of on our radar, I'll let you know as we get closer. So any questions right now, syllabus wise? All right. Gets you all excited to start class, right? Maybe not. I know syllabus day is a little boring. That's okay. That's all right. We just got to get through it. So we're all on the same page. As we kind of go back over here, I just want to kind of give you a little bit of an overview of how Canvas is laid out so that you know like where to look for things and how I kind of position things so that you can navigate it easily. So at the top here is where you're always going to land when you come into Canvas. And so this is kind of the home page. I always have announcements out here, and you probably got this announcement kind of welcoming you. This was an email announcement, would have been sent to your email as well, welcoming you to our, fall 2 session. And then I've got the syllabus up here, which we went over. Now, addition to the syllabus, just down below is electronic link to the student handbook, as well as the academic support information for, they have I guess I'll click on it, PDF here. WCTC has an academic center for for instance, if you have English classes or math classes that you're taking at the same time, science classes, and they're open at all different times. And writing center, reading center, peer tutoring, all of those things. So so if you feel that would be of benefit to you, feel free to reach out to them. So I like to have that out there for you guys. And that was in the syllabus. I also have a link to that very same thing in the modules. So the student handbook, when we go to the modules, and the academic support information is also there. The modules is really where you're going to live. Okay. Every week we're going to be looking at the modules, and how I try to break it down is first week is module 1, second week is module 2, and stuff like that. So as we go down here, a couple of things at the top, we've got the handbook and the academic support links. And I also have a link for you for the free student version that you can load to have that access off campus. Okay. So if we click on this, this kind of gives you all the links and all the information. It's a good idea to check to see if you have the correct specs, if you would, on your offsite computer for AutoCAD. Yes.
So I just clicked on the link to the academic support information, and it says failed needs authorization.
Oh, really? Okay, well then that must be my fault. I will, I'll make sure. Which
Yeah,
one,
something to look into later.
which one was that? Was it the one on the modules page here?
The one from the syllabus where.
Oh.
The last.
Okay, I will check, because it's opening for me, but it's not for you guys, is that right?
So,
It opened for you,
Maybe.
huh? Okay, yeah, we'll look at that more closely. Okay, all right. All right, and then, so the AutoCAD, just be sure that you have the ability. Now, I will tell you, AutoCAD is gonna put the specs out there so that it runs well. All right, that doesn't mean that what you have, if it's a little bit older, or if it's not quite up to par, meaning the RAM that they want, I think they usually want 16 meg minimum. If you do, I run it at home on 8. Okay, so, and it runs just fine. It's usually a graphics card is going to be the more critical thing. And if you do any gaming, you have a computer, that's fine. Okay, honestly, that's the deal. So, but try it on, a machine. I wouldn't go out and buy something because the AutoCAD site says this. I would download, see how it works, and go from there. Okay. So, and again, remember, that is a personal choice. There is no requirement here that says that you have to have outside access to the software because we have a lab. Okay. And then even sometimes students, if it's outside of our class time hours, I actually have class, some other hours during the day. You can always come in and sit in my class and, work if you wanted to, or we can just find out if the lab is available and we can, make that happen as well. So, so just be aware. Any questions about that?
It's the link on the course syllabus page, not the one you just.
Oh, the syllabus page? Okay, I will check that. The one in the modules worked, but the one in the, okay, I'll make sure that I check that. Thank you. Okay, so then if we go back to modules down below where it starts week 1, module 1, this is where we're going to start getting into our weekly tasks, if you would. And how I have this broken out is basically you're going to see module 1, part 1. It's going to be looking at a chapter in the book. We'll be spending time going through that chapter. There's always a PowerPoint presentation that goes along with that. We'll be following along with illustrations in the book, doing examples through the chapter that prepare us for the homework that you'll be assigned. Okay. And then so I go back a level here to that module. Then there's going to be the part 2. How I usually try to structure this is that 2 of our days are going to be like content. So for instance, and it really all kind of depends on how far I get each time. I'm not going to promise each time, but I like to try to do this, that Fridays are a work day. Okay. Where there's no new information given on Friday, because Friday is also your due date. So I don't want to give you new information and then the assignment is due right away. I want to give you a little bit of time to work on it. So in my brain right now, and how I hope that it perfectly works out, is that our Monday, Wednesdays are going to be the lecture, demo, get you, introduced to the information so that you're ready to start working on it. And then Friday would be a work day. Okay. And how I've handled it in the past is if students want to either work off campus on that work day, or if they have all their work in, they technically don't have to even, virtually, be available because they don't need me. Okay. So, so we'll kind of play that by ear as it goes. Again, that's ideally in my head how I like it to work out, but there might be weeks when we need that Friday to do some demo or lecture. We just kind of never know. I don't want to rush things too much either, but that's usually how it is. And then you'll notice that there are assignments, down below here. So the first assignment is going to be chapter 1 out of our book. And it looks like a lot. It looks like a lot, but we're going to find out that some of these go together, for instance. Okay. So don't get too worried about that. So, so I will again, get you prepared for this homework assignment. And then if we go back one more time, and then we have an assignment number 2, which is then going to relate to the second part of this module, which is going to be chapter 4. Okay. And then we'll be looking at, again, some of these go together with each other. So don't get too concerned about the number of problems here. Okay. Questions. So that's kind of how things are structured in terms of Canvas. One other place that is probably going to be of interest to you is to look over at the calendar. Now, the calendar is out there, if you would, as a calendar for like all of your classes. Okay. So if we click on the calendar, I actually go outside of my class, the basic mechanisms, and I'm going to turn this one off and turn basic mechanisms back on this class. And what I have out here for this class, and you'll notice that you'll have populated on the right-hand side courses that you have out in Canvas. Now you can turn on and off, toggle them on and off, depending on if you want to look what's on the calendar or not. So if you have instructors that populate this calendar, you could have all of your stuff on one calendar, okay? And then you can also, I think, download it like to your phone or something like that so that you have it available. But I always try to put these out here because I think it's nice for students just to know like when your assigned times are in terms of the lecture, and then when the assignments are due. You're going to kind of see those out here. And again, my typical due dates are going to be on Fridays for no other reason. It's the end of the week. Okay. And it's at the end of the day. And if Friday is a good day for you to get it in and you're all set, wonderful. But if you do need an extra day or two or over the weekend, it's totally fine too. Or if you need to wait until Monday to ask me a question on something because you didn't understand it, totally fine too. Okay. But just make sure that we know that our drop dead is the December 15th, our very last day of the class. So you don't want to get behind with assignments. Okay. Any questions? Canvas, syllabus, course overview. All right. Crystal clear. And as we go through, don't hesitate to ask, or, we can revisit these as well. So I am going to stop recording at this time.